this whiskey requires a little bit of water to open up the nose. I didn't feel the smokiness on the nose as much.
I'm also getting some amount of smoke.
There is a hefty price tag attached to it.
Hey everyone, Swati and Vinayak from the Dram Club, and welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the world of whiskies from across the world. And today we have something really special, a whiskey that's rare and exceptional and available in very limited quantities, the Johnnie Walker Blue Label Umami.
That's right. But before we dive deep into this limited edition beauty, let's step back a little bit. What makes the original Johnnie Walker Blue Label so iconic? And why is Umami being called one of the most special releases?
Before we get into talking a bit more about Blue Label and the tasting of the Umami, when did you first try Blue Label? And if you've tried, what was your impression of the Blue Label?
Okay, so if I have to be very honest, I don't remember when was the first time I tried Blue Label.
Okay.
And for the longest time, I avoided trying Blue Label because I just felt like it's too expensive a whiskey.
Right.
Right? And you know, sometimes you have this notion that it's pricey, but it might be overrated kind of a thing. But I have to admit that I was pleasantly surprised. I tried the Blue Label, I think a couple of months ago. Actually, I did a Blue Label and Blue Label Umami tasting. But the one tasting I did a couple of months ago, I very distinctly and very, very clearly remember it. And obviously, Blue Label is so iconic that you've heard so many different opinions of people, etc., everything. You've read so much about it, good, bad, etc., everything. But I think my experience 2 months ago has really changed my perception about Blue Label.
And what stood out at that point in time?
I think I was in a room of about 15-20 people, and obviously everybody had a differing opinion. But everyone ended up liking some or the other aspect of Blue Label.
Right.
Like someone liked the subtle smokiness, or someone liked how smooth it was. Someone just felt that it was very easy sipping and all. And I think that is what Blue Label was meant for.
Right.
I think it is a crowd pleaser. It has something for everybody, no matter how diverse the audience may be.
Right.
And I think that for me really stood out that day.
So for me, what stands out about the Blue Label is, for starters, the fact that the whiskey was launched in 1992.
Okay.
And we are in 2025. To produce the same flavor profile, or to blend the same eventual flavor profile year after year is quite a Herculean task. It's like a lot of science. It's not just art to get the act right year after year, right? When it comes to producing a blend like this. When I host any of the Blue Label tastings, I request the guests to sort of hold the Blue Label on their palate for about a couple of seconds and pay attention to the texture of the whiskey. I think, in my opinion, it's amongst one of the most smoothest. The texture is like pure velvet. So very few whiskeys sort of match that silky smoothness that the Blue Label offers.
That is something that I also realized, that I think it's just very velvety, very creamy, very rich when it comes to your palate. And again, to work on a brand or to know a brand like Johnnie Walker Blue Label is a marketer's delight. It stands for everything luxury, everything aspirational, success, achievement, and everything that comes with it.
I think also another thing that Blue Label, right? It's that nothing stands out. Everything is in a balance. Like, you know, all the flavors are in such harmony that, as you mentioned, there is something for everyone.
Correct.
Whether it's the subtle smokiness, whether you get hints of berries, whether you get a bit of chocolate, whether you get a bit of nuttiness, whether you get a bit of honey, a bit of spiciness. So there is something that everyone likes.
Another thing, I mean, given in the Scotch world, you always associate luxury with aged whiskies. Like, higher the age, more premium they command, and therefore they classify in the Lux portfolio. But with Blue Label, it commands that prestige of a luxury whiskey, but it has got nothing to do with age.
Right.
It is all about balance, and it is all about carefully selecting the right casks which will give the right flavor. And in fact, it is said that only 1 in 10,000 casks is selected for the whiskey that goes into the Blue Label.
Absolutely. I think the whiskey is all about the art of blending and balance. So Johnnie Walker Blue Label has been a whiskey of choice for world leaders celebrities, and whiskey connoisseurs. And of course, it has made its way into the pop culture and popular movies. You have probably seen Johnnie Walker Blue Label in some of the biggest movies and TV shows. It often shows up as a symbol of power, luxury, and prestige.
For example, in House of Cards, the character of Frank Underwood, which is played by Kevin Spacey, is always sipping on the Blue Label when he's attending high-powered political meetings.
And not to mention series like Mad Men, Billionaire, etc., where you will find high-flying businessmen and lawyers reaching out for the luxurious Blue Label. And now they have taken things a notch further with something that they have never done before. A whiskey that celebrates the fifth flavor, umami.
So, what is umami? We are all aware of the four tastes: sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. But there is a fifth taste which was discovered by the Japanese. It is called umami, and it really defines the savory richness.
If you were to think of a flavor profile that is similar to umami, you can experience umami in things like soy sauce, aged cheese, some steak, and mushrooms.
In fact, a very easy example of umami is have a raw tomato.
Okay.
And sprinkle some salt over it.
Okay.
And that, when you take a bite of it, the kind of flavor, texture, and sensation you get in your mouth is actually umami.
Was it?
Yes. And so what Johnnie Walker did is the master blender Emma Walker collaborated with a Japanese chef, Kei Kobayashi, who is a 3 Michelin-star chef from Japan. This collaboration led to the birth of umami, and that's exactly what Johnnie Walker aimed to capture in this whiskey. Johnnie Walker's master blender, Dr. Emma Walker, and chef Kei Kobayashi worked together to craft a whiskey that literally tastes like umami.
And here's what I find really fascinating about this whiskey. Diageo owns over hundreds of thousands of casks across various distilleries. And for their master blender, Dr. Emma Walker and chef Kei Kobayashi, to come up with a whiskey that has flavors of umami, only 1 in 25,000 casks were selected. And the result? A whiskey that's a perfect blend of sweet, savory, smoky, and slightly salty flavors. And now, let's get to the tasting of this whiskey.
So, Vinayak, what do you think about the color of the whiskey?
I think the color is definitely dark, like dark golden. I think it's much darker than the regular Blue Label.
I would say this is like vintage gold.
Okay.
And Blue Label is more like yellow or like slightly pale yellow gold.
Yeah, in fact, for me also this is like, a bit of yellow with hint of orange.
What's the ABV on this one?
So this is 43% and the regular Blue Label is bottled at a 40%
yeah.
ABV. Let's nose.
Yep.
Very juicy on the nose.
Yeah, it's very intensely sweet.
Like juicy. I'm getting a bit of like very ripe oranges.
Yeah.
Some peach. Bit of getting some lychees as well.
Getting those stewed fruits like that fig, apricot kind of fruits. There is a hint of spice, but I think the sweetness is quite pronounced.
I'm also getting some amount of smoke, a hint of smoke. And I'm getting saltiness for sure, like a sea salt at the back of the nose.
I just feel that this whiskey requires a little bit of water to open up the nose because it's very intensely juicy and fruity at the heart of it. Actually, after adding water, it's a different whiskey altogether. I am starting to get a little bit of that sea salt kind of a note.
Yeah, sea salt I was getting earlier as well. Definitely now, because this is umami, I don't want to say that I'm getting that soy sauce sort of a nose.
Right.
But I'm definitely getting something that is reminding me of soy sauce.
In fact, at one of the umami tastings, someone actually said that. That they're getting, this nose is reminding them of soy sauce.
No, the nose is not reminding me of soy sauce exactly, but after few inhales of the whiskey, nosing it for a bit, I'm getting the hint of, I've been trying to figure out what is that one aroma without being prejudiced. But I think I can't think of anything other than a soy sauce.
To describe it.
Let's have a sip.
Yes.
I think the viscosity on this one is again more than the regular Blue Label.
I didn't feel the smokiness on the nose as much, but on the palate, I find it smokier. even compared to the Blue Label, I would say. I think I find it smokier. It is spicy. Again, those fruity notes like fig or apricot. A little bit of red berries also I'm getting on the palate.
On the palate, it's really difficult to get past the initial mouthfeel and the lusciousness of the whiskey. The sweetness on the palate is not as fruity as the nose. I think on the palate, the savory notes balance the fruity sweetness. I think I do get, as you mentioned, berries. I'm getting some nuttiness as well coming through. There is smoke, but those savory notes are quite pronounced on the palate.
Yeah, actually you're right. The sweeter notes are not as pronounced. Like on the nose, it was instantly like it's juicy and it's like very rich and sweet. But on the palate, there's a lot more going on the palate, I think, compared to what it was on the nose.
There is a bit of that saltiness is there. I think I'm getting a bit of smoked ham, sort of juicy smoked ham sort of a thing. Some pepper as well.
Like, you would get like a grilled pineapple.
Yeah, okay.
I'm getting that kind of.
So again, so getting the smokiness and the juiciness coming through. Yeah, so I'm getting, when you mentioned pineapple, I'm also getting a bit of those tropical fruits coming through on the palate.
Yeah, but I think this almost feels like I'm eating something from an Asian kitchen. Where umami flavors are so pronounced and they are so much in the atmosphere.
Right.
It almost feels like that. And I had ramen just yesterday, so it is reminding me of a little bit of that.
Do you find the whiskey also a bit drying?
It is.
Right?
Yeah. It is drying, and again, if you go back and relate it to the example that I talked about, the tomato and the salt. Even after you eat a salted tomato, your palate is dry.
Okay.
Because salt kind of dehydrates it, so your palate is dry. And interestingly for me on the palate, like it's been a while since I've taken a sip, that tingling sensation which you have when you maybe have had an aged cheddar or something, I still feel that tingling sensation around my tongue.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, which is an indication of, so umami is not just about the flavor, right? It's also about the sensations that it leaves on your palate. And I think this whiskey just does that.
What do you think about the finish?
I think it's fairly long.
Yeah.
Savory.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of subtle spices. I would say something like cinnamon or a white pepper.
Okay.
Kind of a spice. A lot of savory notes. Slightly woody. And that woody bitterness, I would say. Not unpleasant, but like that woody bitterness that you get. And surprisingly on the finish, I don't find it to be any sweet. Like on the nose and on the palate, there is sweetness, but on the finish, I don't find any sweet notes.
I think finish definitely is very long. It is a very long finish. I mean, there are no two ways about it. And I think the finish, while you're getting that fruity sweetness, but there is that savoriness also kicks in. There's definitely a bit of cinnamon and bit of oak, and I would lean more towards a savory note. But overall, a very long, drying, spicy and savory finish on this one.
I think texture-wise, this is also rich. It comes from the Johnnie Walker Blue Label family. It's a limited edition, and therefore there is a hefty price tag attached to it.
Right.
What do you think? Does it live up to the expectations?
See, I think these things can be quite subjective. But if you love luxury, craftsmanship, and something collectible, a limited edition, I think it's a price worth paying because I remember actually the first time I had tried umami was in Edinburgh. Within the week it was launched in I think September 2023 at the Johnnie Walker Princess Street, and most of the places it was sold out. And going by my past experiences with the limited Johnnie Walker releases, I think they offer a significant value over a period of time. Like they also make for, if you want to resell them later, you can fetch a much higher price compared to what you're getting right now. So again, if I have to put the collectible or collectability of the whiskey along with the legacy, the craftsmanship, I think I would definitely go for it.
I think for me, to be honest, when I tried the whiskey the first time and again today, I think the fact that it is so beautifully crafted, that it actually brings out the umami, the savory richness, and it's unheard of. Even in the whiskey world, it is unheard of. I don't think people have explored flavors like what umami is doing. So I think purely for that sheer concept and that novelty factor, I would pay that price.
Yeah.
And I would definitely buy a bottle of it.
A quick review of the Johnnie Walker Blue Label Umami. Let us know in the comments below if you have tried this whiskey or this is something that you would love to buy for yourself or as a gift. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.